Zimbabwe. So our panel discussion is on sustainable collaboration between farmer and input suppliers. What do you think are the biggest challenges to food security in the next 10 to 20 years, and how can your company, Zimplow, help farmers to address these challenges? So that's the question there. What do you think are the biggest challenges to food security in the next 10 to 20 years, and how can your company, Zimplow, help farmers to address these challenges?
Thank you, Luzi. Good afternoon, everyone. I think some of the challenges have already been mentioned. One of the key challenges which farmers continue to face, and I believe will continue to face in the next 10 to 20 years, is access to capital. We are a seller of equipment at Zimplow. We start from the smallholder farmer right through to the commercial farmer. We try to cater for everyone in the farming sector. The second challenge, which I do think will continue to be faced by farmers, is on soil conservation. I do think erosion has been a factor, and soils continue to lose or to degrade as we go. We have faced some extreme weather challenges, which to a certain extent have caused a lot of runoff on the soil. I also would like to point out that in terms of water conservation, it's a huge factor. I think we are seeing shorter windows of farming seasons, and the transition between the winter and the summer crop seasons, they are getting shorter, and therefore, as we go into the future, as people continue to speak about climate change, there will be a lot of challenges that will be faced by the farmer. As a company, as Zimplow, we have been trying to look at how we can assist the farmer in resolving that. From an access to capital perspective, we have undertaken a stakeholder approach whereby we work with our other stakeholders in the farming industries, like the off-takers, the banks, and the leasing companies, for instance, even the Ministry of Agriculture. With the banks, I think what we have just tried to do is to, because for certain instances where we can't offer financing off our own balance sheet, we do approach banks where we believe that the farmer has got capacity, but probably in terms of what we can offer, they can't meet the criteria, but probably would meet the criteria which is being offered by the banks. So we have always tried to be the link between the bank and the farmer. On a second note, we have worked with off-takers, I think like Sidco, like the tobacco off-takers, to try and provide equipment to the farmer. They can go into the season before they make a payment. But if we've got a little support or a commitment from the off-taker, we can then release equipment to the farmer, and they can produce whatever that they need to be producing. I can go on to even mention how we've worked with leasing company, one of them AFC. We work with companies like Delage, some of players in Shinoy like Convice, where we are trying to provide softer financing capabilities so that they can be able to equip and help the farmer. But more specifically at Zimplow, we have got a new entity called Format, which is targeted at providing low entry levels, or in fact I can say low entry level equipment, even used tractors, where a farmer can access equipment at a lower cost. If you look at what we have provided at farming, this is premium equipment. It's more focused on productivity, it's more focused on people who have established experience, who are more insulated to the extreme weather challenges that we've been facing of late. So with Vomic, we believe that if we can offer a solution that is accessible to every other farmer who is starting up, who is trying to establish themselves, then at least they can be able to grow themselves and participate on the higher technologies that are available. We have got Millibrand, which is a smallholder farming mechanization solution company. With Millibrand, we have originally been supplying the plow, and now we have gone on to the small engines. I think in fact, it was Mr. Sharare who mentioned that, farmers are looking for, in fact, especially the ones that, when you talk about food security, the ones that need to be taken care of, the ones that are more vulnerable are your rural farmers. So with the smallholder mechanization solutions, especially with the small engines, they step in to cover for the gap that is being created by the loss of drought power, especially the animal, the ox, the cows, they are being depleted by the general disease. So as a company, we felt that we needed to step in and provide the lower than 50 horsepower tractors, both four-wheel or two-wheel, and also provide the implements through our manufacturing capacity in Bulawayo. So we are doing quite a bit to try and cover, but in the interest of time, I can go on and on.
Thank you. Thank you, Levi. I think we have heard from, obviously, a farming equipment provider. Now, Wendy, I would like to pose a similar question to you from your end in terms of what are some of the initiatives that you are putting in place to address the challenges that are faced by the farmers in terms of collaboration and making sure that the farmer gets what he or she needs on the farm.
Thank you so much, Putzi. Thank you for having me. Allow me to just congratulate our outgoing and incoming permanent secretary on their recent appointments, and just to dwell straight into it, as you have already warned me of time. So Sitco, having been in the business for over 8 years, we really are driven by the mission of making sure that we breed, seed, feed and lead in Africa in doing so. Why I'm bringing out the African perspective is that we would want for you to understand the scale at which this organization is driven to really bring home food security. Because at the moment we are in over 21 African countries. And you have heard from Mr. Mchairo here earlier on. I didn't send him, but he was telling you that, the seeds are doing well even in Zambia. Other issues that he discussed aside, I don't have a comment on that for yet. So it's very important for our farmers to understand that at Sitco we really take productivity, personally. We want our farmers to do well because it's a win-win situation. If the farmer wins, we win as well. But we have a series of stakeholders, value chain stakeholders, where it starts even from the seed production side, where we have farmers specifically who are producing for seed, and for those we make sure that their needs are met specifically for them. We availed equipment that they require, we availed dryers over the past years so that they can be able to meet their cropping needs. Then in terms of the commercial side of the business, where we are selling the seed, for the farmer, we want to make sure that we are providing solutions, not just selling the seed. So we are driven to make sure that at least whatever we are doing, our product basket intensifies and diversifies as much as possible. Where we are, yes, maize is a staple crop, but we are into wheat, soybean, we are into traditional or small grains, but we have a very intensive research program through our local research station, Battery Arnold. We have Kadoma Research Station, where we have over 15 breeders that are there who are driven to make sure that they are availing specific crop needs that are required for a specific segment. So, like for Kadoma, we are breeding specifically for the drier regions, and for the Battery Arnold, it's a broader basket of other crops and the high potential areas. And we have breeders specifically for maize, for wheat, we have breeders for the small grains. Futuristic crops again, we will be availing millet, cowpeas as well. So we really do have the farmer at heart there in terms of our research-driven initiatives. But I was happy that today's session started with the marketing side, where we believe that we need to be a market-driven organization. So we believe that whatever we are doing, it should start with the farmer's needs and wants. So we are also doing a lot of market research to understand what the farmer needs, changes in feeding habits, how we can meet up and make sure that the farmer gets the bio-fortified products that they want. The customer, is it an NGO? What is their end goal? So we are also a market-driven organization. We are driven to provide innovative, smart, climate-smart seed technologies that meet the farmer at their point of need.
Thank you, Wendy. And let me skip Patrick for a bit and come to Mr. Craig. what are some of the challenges in terms of collaboration between farming input suppliers and farmers, and how can these challenges be overcome? Earlier, we heard from Mr. Mchairo on the issue of input costs. How do we collaborate with the farmers to make sure that it is a win-win solution? If you can pass on that.
Thank you very much. Yes, Tom Chairo, let me start by commenting on your point of the cost of inputs. You know, the cost of inputs actually come from the production cost. I'm happy on your conclusion, you touched on cheaper inputs or cheaper fertilizers in Zambia rather than in Zimbabwe. So if you look at the production cost, the cost with seed is irrigation, right? The cost of water, the cost of electricity, the cost of fertilizers, the cost of chemicals for dressing our seed, the dyes, the packaging, everything is important. So at the end of the day, you find the production cost of seed itself right up to a final bag. You know, there isn't much we can do besides that, you know, we pass on the cost. And yeah, I think retailers understand that very well, that, you know, at the end of the day, when you're selling this bottle, someone must pay for the container, the label, the water, you know, all that. So really, when it comes to cost of inputs, is something which we have to work with farmers so that at least we produce the production cost, lobby the government to subsidize some of these inputs so that at least they are affordable, so that at the end of the day we are in a position to produce cheaper seeds. But all the same, you find that when it comes to seed itself, for it to get to the farmer at a reasonable cost, for the farmer to get, you know, as a seed industry, what we are doing a similar thing in terms of seed distribution. What we do is, after we've produced our seed, we have to make sure that we set one price. The price we find in Harare, that's the price we find in Plumtree, Bedbridge, Mutoko, everywhere. And when it comes to distribution of the seed, we have one channel system which all seed companies are using. We produce, we've got seed at a warehouse, which you can come and buy direct from us. But when you are buying direct from us, the price you're going to pay in Bedbridge is exactly the price you're going to pay at our warehouse or at our offices. And then we've got depots. Depots, we give them the seed, they are holding depots who have got the capacity to sell as well. So when they are selling, again, they are selling at a price which, when you buy from there, that's the same price you're going to pay in Bedbridge and at our offices. And then we've got a retailer whom we give the seed to sell to the farmer, and groups as well. We entertain groups, we entertain companies, but the way we distribute our seed is basically the same. But the most hindering factor when it comes to seed distribution is the road network. You find as we are distributing our seed, we try to reach out to as many farmers as possible, and this is we are looking at rural areas, because our markets, all the seed houses, we are looking at about 80-85% of our market actually being communal farmer. So we have to make sure we get to that farmer irrespective of the challenges of the roads. So even if the transporter charges higher price, still that does not change the cost of the bag of seed at the end of the day. But as a company or as a seed industry, what we do, which is quite common as well, it seems like we copy each other from these strategies and the like, which is very good for the farmer at the end of the day. One fellow spoke about field days, demonstrations and the like. That's what we do, because what we want at the end of the day, we are all in business. The farmer is in business. Let's not forget that. Even if he's a communal farmer, he also wants that money from farming. The money they use it to send their children to school, develop their household or homestead, buy cattle, food, clothing, everything. It comes from from what they're going to farm. So it means at the end of the day, they are into business. And we are also into business. The farmer is going to produce the seed is in business. The person who's going to supply the packing material is also into business. So really, when for us to thrive, for us to be profitable, for us to be viable, the farmer has to be viable as well. So we have to make sure that we look after the farmer, we help the farmer to produce, so that at least they're in a position to purchase more input so that they go back into farming the following season. So what we do is we have to make sure that we help the farmer with all the gaps, good agricultural practices, and this starts from your soil analysis. We train the farmers with soil sampling, soil analysis, and we also make sure that, when it comes to land preparation, matching the seed to ecological regions, it's pointless to say you give somebody a seed which is suitable for high potential or irrigation into plant where it is very dry, and then the farmer doesn't perform at the end of the day. When it comes to planting itself, the physical planting, we have to make sure we help the farmer management throughout up to harvesting and probably into markets, as well as value addition, because we also train on value addition. You've got your maize, you've got your yield. What do you do with your maize in order to value add? You don't retain everything. You pass on some of your parcels or produce to processors, GMB, and some of it you value add. We are looking at probably value addition of Maputi, Manuchi, all those things, so that at least you maximize on the produce which you are getting. So as a seed industry, we have to make sure that we also support the farmers so that they're in a position to make money and remain viable, as much as we also want to remain viable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I think next year we'll have a full day of this discussion so that we exhaust everything. But thank you for your submissions there. I want to come to you, Patrick. I know I've been in the industry for years. Days at CITCO, ICO, and now also TIMB chairperson. But I want you to wear the head of a banker, where you're now with First Capital Bank. What are some of the challenges and opportunities of investing in sustainable agriculture? And I also want you to speak to the issue that was raised earlier on by Mr. Mchaelo, the issue of the price of money, the cost of money for the farmer. So those are the issues that I want you to address on the challenges and opportunities of investing in sustainable agriculture, and also speaking to the issue of the price of money.
Thanks very much. It's such a difficult question to answer. Fundamentally, when I look at agriculture, we're looking at two things. We're looking at raising yields and reducing costs. That's what this game is all about. And finance is but a component of that, as Ivan was just saying. The banks in our country are fundamentally substantially undercapitalized. There's several reasons for that, not least of which was the one-to-one in February of 2019. I think that happened. That destroyed a lot of capital. So I'll take the tobacco industry as an example. It costs between $250 and $300 million to grow the tobacco crop, cost of imports. 90+% of that money comes in from outside. The contractors borrow that money, they bring it in, they grow the crop, they have to repatriate that money to the bankers plus the interest. So that is driving charges. So one of the things we have to do is find ways of getting our banks capitalized properly, which would have the automatic effect of driving down interest rates. There's a huge shortage of money in this town. I'm sure all of those of you in business are aware of that. You might get a loan approved by the bank, but the bank can't give you the money for that. So I think getting our banks correctly capitalized. I know that Afreximbank are great supporters of Zimbabwe. I'm sure everyone knows they're building that huge building opposite the park on Chitepa Avenue. I think that's a possibility. But to answer your question very simply, our banks are undercapitalized, there's not enough money, therefore it's driving the interest rates up.
Thank you there, Patrick. Leslie, I know yours is a little bit different from my other panelists, but as a food processor, what are some of the specific examples of how your company is working with farmers to improve food security, but also touching on the aspect of that farmer that is providing you with some of your inputs, for them to reach to you maybe at a reasonable price? Do you have any initiatives that you have put in place to try and help the farmer so that you have a win-win situation as a value chain?
Thank you so much for redirecting me in my area of comfort. I was trying to calculate how I can contribute to the seed issue, but yeah, thank you for being generous. Well, I think probably let me just also give an overview of what I think. Pretty much, if you look at this game, it's an input, in process, and an output system. The input, where you get your seed ball with the seed, your fertilizer companies, and other players in that area. And then the in process, that's where you get your farmer and your agro processor. And then the output becomes the market. I feel in a big way there is a huge disconnect in the value chain. There's no integration in the value chain. Where am I getting that assertion? If you look at the money that we spend in buying, raw materials as manufacturers, it's a lot of money, and the records are there. Zimra has it, the Ministry of Finance has it. If you go to the Ministry of Agriculture, they are the ones who give the permits, the plant permits and everything for people to import things. Huge budget on food, or huge budget on a lot of raw materials that we use as manufacturers. Right? I would feel there should be more communication within the value chain. Right? There should be more communication whereby the manufacturer and the retailer directs the farmer. And if the farmer is directed, he can also then push the inputs in the way that there is value that is generated. So I'm seeing a farmer who is focusing on what the market doesn't require. And I'm seeing a manufacturer who is struggling to get raw materials, who's heavily relying on importation of raw materials. If you look at, for example, the oil industry, the soybeans that we are currently producing can only sustain, I was talking to one manufacturer, just 4 months. And they have to then import crude oil from outside the country, and that's a huge part. So I think we now need to be more intentional in our approach, to then say, to have dialogues, interministerial communications, whatever, but to then have a clear audit to say, what is it that our manufacturers require that we are importing, right? And what is it that the farmer should then do to be able to produce what the manufacturer requires and what the market requires. Don't underestimate the role of the retailer. At one point, I think Karen would know, the retailer, there is a brand, before the introduction of that instant porridge, the information came from the retailer to say, you know what, we are spending a lot of money to import this thing, but we've got a lot of maize. Can you not, you guys, as manufacturers, work on that? Within 6 months, a lot of manufacturers had actually produced, your Dove Bill, your National Foods, a lot of manufacturers, and that space is not dominated. So now, if we have more scenarios of that, we get in the oil industry, we become intentional. What is it? How much sunflower do we need? How much soybean do we need as manufacturer? We direct that information to the farmer. And then the farmer directs also to the seed supplier. You then see we have a clean, more integrated system. And these things, Delta has managed to do it, Ivins has managed to do it. We now need to be more intentional about it, so that at least we close that gap.
Thank you, Leslie, for those submissions. And I think one issue that I see is or sort of like a theme that I've gone through across the speakers is also the issue of that we are not speaking to each other. The farmer or maybe we are, each and everyone is defending their position to say, okay, if the farmer says that my cost of doing business is very high, the input supplier is also saying, look, I'm also looking at my cost of doing business, it's also very high. But we need to find solutions. And Wendy, from your point as seed producers, what are you doing to make sure that your products and services are more sustainable? Why am I asking this question? Because if the farmer believes that he's not getting value for money, if farming is not profitable, the farmer might end up not farming at all, and the whole value chain collapses if we don't have the farmer. So what role as seed producers? Yes, the cost of doing business is high, but there are initiatives that we are putting in place to make sure that your products and services are more sustainable.
Thank you, Kudzi. You seem to like that question a lot. I think Craig touched a bit on it, trying to respond to that. But I think as the seed industry, as was highlighted earlier on by Pex, having been in the industry from different facets for a very long time, it's an issue to do with us also trying to push the productivity level by our farmers. Because if they end up getting a higher productivity, then their return per dollar invested, even right through to the farmer, the end user, it will become more profitable for them as well. So we are also pushing research. Our research is not only ending at the level where we avail the seed. We even do research on the agronomic practices, the best practices that the farmer should employ so that they can get the maximum value out of the seed that they will be growing. Then we also have what we call a product life cycle. The product life cycle is also meant to measure and track the performance of old and new products, whether there is a gap, maybe there is a new disease that has come because of climate change, maybe there is a growing need for silage varieties, there is a growing need for green milling varieties. So as a market, we are also doing, as the seed producers as well, we are also doing research in terms of trying to find out if there are gaps in the market that we need to meet by availing exactly what the farmer needs. And once we do that, I think it will also speak to the sustainability of the value chain from the producer, from the seed producer, right through to the farmer. But mostly it's to do with making sure that the farmer maximizes on their productivity level. Our yield, annual yield for the country, for the communal farmers, maybe we can say was it around 0.9 around 3 years ago. But according to the Minister of Agriculture, it has gone up to above a ton, maybe it's close to 2 tons now, give or take. But we still have a lot in terms of bridging the gap from the potential to the actual yield that our farmers are getting. Because if we can push our productivity to around 5 tons per hectare at a communal scale, it means even the production structure will change and the farmer will remain with something in the pocket. Even for us, for the seed producers as well, if they can push even the yield of the seed, it means in terms of our costing for the end product, it becomes more profitable. And there is a win-win for both the farmer and for us, the seed producers.
Thank you, Wendy, and I have to agree with you there, because if we have got seed varieties that can do 10 ton, 14 ton, and we have got farmers that are doing 1 ton, it means somehow we are not doing things the right way as farmers. So yeah, I'll come to you. Before I come, I give my panelists a chance to conclude. I'm not doing well on time. I just want 2 burning questions from the floor that can be responded to by the panelists, and then I'll give them a chance to and please make your questions straight to the point, less than 50 seconds.
My question is on seed pricing. Zambia is a country that imports everything vice-versa. Everything. Fertilizers and everything. But still can afford to price their fertilizer, their seeds cheaper than us. So I think there's something that we talked about which could provide a solution. I think one of those is yield of seed, not commercial seed yield. Are we choosing the farmers that are correct? Are we shepherding them so that they produce the yield properly? That I think is a question, because inefficiencies in production cycle is paid for by the seed. They have a budget to meet.
Thank you, Mr. Mtrairo, and I think Mr. David is ready to respond to that.
It's access to capital. Because there's no access to capital, government steps in to finance the farmers. Government have to borrow that money and pay interest on it. They don't have unlimited. One way or another, there's interest. Whether they print the money or whether they borrow the money. They then on lend that to the farmer, and one way or another there's a cost there. We have to shorten the value chain. If we can get the financing in place that the farmer gets the money direct from the bank, that value chain will shorten, the interest bill will be reduced.
That's right.
So I think that's one of the big problems that we face.
To the seed houses, there is an issue to do with the productivity of smallholder farmers and commercial farmers. The commercial farmers, we have above 10 tons of maize per hectare. The smallholder farmers, we have below 2 tons. Is it not possible that we continue to say use 7-14-7 for maize when commercial farmers are now using 6-23-23? Is there no problem there? Because I think when we design 7-14-7, which is compound D, the phosphorus content and the phosphorus and what? And potash content of our soils were very high. Probably there's a shift, and there's need to address that issue. I don't know.
To answer you, sir, you find when it comes to productivity at a communal level versus a commercial farming. Commercial, yes, if they get 5%, they'll break even, they are happy. 7%, it's a bonus, they're able to go to England for a holiday because they have made their money. But with a communal farmer, when they spoke of 700 kgs, now we are talking of about 1.3 tons per hectare. You know, it's criminal for a person under irrigation. It's criminal for a person in high potential area. We're looking at Murewa, for instance, to achieve maybe 1.3, 2 tons is even too high per hectare. So when it comes to training, the use of fertilizers, recommendation of fertilizers, yes, it's a thumbs up that people use for the 7-14-7 compound D at 400 kgs basal, 400 kgs AN for top dressing. But there's a clever way of doing it. You know, when you are looking, when a farmer is using, a commercial farmer is using 400 kgs per hectare of 7-14-7, that farmer is targeting 5 to 7 tons per hectare, not beyond that. If they want anything above 7 tons, they have to fertilize for it. They have to invest in it. You fertilize for the potential yield which you're expecting. If you want 10 tons, you push your basal fertilizer to 600 kgs per hectare. If you want 12 tons, you push your basal fertilizer to 800 kgs per hectare because you fertilize for the yield you want. But if you look at a communal farmer now, one, our soils, we are not taking them for analysis. So we don't know what is building our soil. We don't know the fertilizers or the micronutrients in our soil. So we cannot address that. So we don't expect our crops to perform. What's more, we don't know the soil pH. If it's acidic, even if you put 30 tons of fertilizer per hectare, if your soil pH is off 4.2, that fertilizer is not mobile. It's actually held in the soil. It doesn't dissolve into soil solutions readily to be taken by the plant. So as a result, you are wasting resources into the soil. So it is to do with agricultural culture. Are we doing it right? You know, those gaps, the good agricultural practices, it starts with science in the lab. Collect your soils, have them analyzed. You are told exactly what type of fertilizer to use and what quantity of fertilizer to use. Otherwise, when you are sending your soils for analysis, they ask you what crop do you want to put, what yield do you want to grow for. If you want to grow for 10 tons, they'll give you a totally different fertilizer amount to apply, totally different. And you also get the blend of fertilizer to use. As seed companies, you find we are trying by all means through our research facilities, research programs or breeding programs to come up with some climate smart varieties which actually performs to their maximum potential in all our ecological regions of Zimbabwe. We've got 7 different ecological regions with additional one, which was split, natural region 5A and 5B. So we have our breeding programs. We have to make sure we breed some crops which actually perform to their maximum potential in each ecological region. Apart from breeding such varieties, we have to make sure that our production costs, let me tell you, our seed production is not even 3 tons. Our seed production at the moment is averaging 5 tons. And you know very well that there are some varieties. If you look at SC727 of Sitco, you can't get 1.5 tons per hectare because of the parent material. That's why it's slightly higher in terms of cost. And once you purchase it at that price, a seed, and you sell it at a higher price, that's when you get your 14, 16 tons per hectare. Your money comes back. You have spent money to get the seed, but you get your money back out of the yield if you do it properly. So average seed production is about 5 tons as we speak across all seed houses, unless if it's a special hybrid which is difficult to produce, but you pay for it and you get the yield at the end of the day. And apart from that, we also have to make sure that we also package which is affordable to the farmer, because it's difficult for a farmer today to purchase 50 kgs at one go, which old farmers used to do. We are packing in 2s, 5s, 10s and 20, so that you spread your purchase. Where you've got change, you buy your 2 kg, you buy your 5, you buy your 10. By the end of the day, you've got your enough quantity of seed you want to plant for the whole year. We also go in, distribute right to the furthest part of Zimbabwe at an affordable price. And if you want, we can also deliver per groups, and also we promote through demonstrations, field days, technical schools and the like. So as a seed industry, we are doing a lot to make sure that the farmer benefits at the end of the day. The farmer actually gets the yield at the end of the day, so that they are viable, and the not seed industry, the input industry also remains the same. There are no fertilizer companies here, but what we do as a seed industry, you find the fertilizer company or industry is doing exactly the same in trying to support the farmers so that they remain viable.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I'll next Mr. Devich.
Thanks very much. I would like to just talk about what I consider to be 4 key issues. One is free markets. Look what happened when the fuel market was freed up. We've got fuel. It's a little bit more expensive than it is in neighboring countries. Don't forget, if it's cheaper here in neighboring countries, it flows to neighboring countries. It's got to be the same price. It's 2. So first of all is free market. Secondly, training. We absolutely have to train our farmers, train our input suppliers, etc., critical. 3, linked to that, technology. Technology is absolutely critical in all spheres, which links to R&D. We've got to have R&D everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would just like to conclude by highlighting some of the challenges and the opportunities for investing in sustainable agriculture. So some of the challenges are that there is a bit of resistance to change amongst our farming community, for them to move away from their old farming practices or the way they were doing their things. So the fear of the unknown is another challenge that most of our farmers are facing in terms of them adopting new technologies. And then there is also the lack of knowledge of the benefits associated with these new technologies. And I feel that as the service providers, the impetus is on us to make sure that we are providing the information that is needed by embracing the traditional and digital technology platforms that disseminate information. I feel there is a gap and there is more that can be done. Look at the issue of the El Nino, for example. How many interpretations have you had in the local languages trying to just demystify what El Nino really means? So the farmers are left to really then conclude for themselves what it means to them according to the languages that they best understand. Then in terms of the opportunities, there are long-term soil regeneration opportunities that are there that I think we are not really communicating and sharing enough particularly the land degradation issue which is happening in the communal space. So I think reclamation can also happen if we really push for our sustainable agriculture to be adopted. Then the organic matter builder, I know there's another presentation coming after, where they are going to be highlighting the importance of some of the merits that will come with you having a high organic matter content. You can get €8 per ton of organic matter in your soil. So these are some of the things that will also add value. And if we communicate this, if there is an opportunity and a benefit, really the buy-in will be more apparent. Then in terms of biodiversification and the issue of carbon sequestration, that also speaks to climate change and us moving hand in glove with the initiatives of the GROP. Then in conclusion, I would just like to speak briefly on how the input suppliers can also improve on their collaboration with farmers or make it more effective. One thing that we have noticed is that as input suppliers of different products, we want to judge the farmer. But if you go there in a position of authority and you want to then impose your position or your products on the farmer won't really adopt it willingly or even adopt it at all, or it will be adopted and used wrongly. Then we need to listen more, and we shouldn't force our technologies on farmers. We need to understand their traditional farming practices that they were doing, or the knowledge principles that they were referring to, so that we can give them solutions that speak to whatever they were doing, because they were not wrong. For them to be there and for you to find them there, it means they were doing something right. So let's not appear to know everything when we are engaging our farmers to make it effective. And let's just be human. Let's come down to the level of the farmer and understand how we can make our collaborations more effective and green. Thank you.
Thank you, YG. Over to you, Bimbai.
Thank you. So at Zimlau, I know, Dr. Makombe, you mentioned that our products can be that expensive. And if they continue to be expensive and contribute significantly to the cost or to the input cost, therefore the farmer may find it difficult to continue to purchase the product. So we do understand the aspect of, I think Pat mentioned very well or explained very well the aspect of cost of capital and how it ultimately affects the productivity or the yield that the farmer will be expecting. So from a Zimbabwe perspective, as a leading agricultural technology company, we have been looking at various segments of the market, from the small scale right through to the commercial farmer, through our different brands, Milibra, Farming, Farming. We have been trying to give a specific solution to each farmer. For instance, I mentioned on the smallholder mechanization, we are trying to give a low-cost product, a product that is designed to cater from the initial processing or the land preparation right through to the harvesting. We have invested in a lot of research and development, and our manufacturing plant in Bulawayo has been producing some implements which are more competitive compared to the ones that are being imported. So those are some of the initiatives that we've been making. Over and above that, we have been, I mentioned in terms of the tractor side, we have been evaluating the supply chain to ensure that at least we are present. Just like what you mentioned, we have taken time to listen to the farmers and to understand how we can participate in the process. To a certain extent, where we can, we have provided advisory services, where we have helped the farmer in terms of how to maintain the equipment. We understand reliability is a huge issue, especially when it comes to shorter seasons, the extreme weather patterns. We have to improve the reliability of the equipment so that they are available when they are needed the most. And we've been available in terms of accessibility to the farmer. We have got branches across the green belt of Zimbabwe, and we believe that when it comes to equipment, whether you are talking of any other brand, we have tried to assist the farmer so that they are not limited to the service that associated with our brands like Massey Ferguson or Valtra, but they get to experience or they get to utilize our services for other brands like New Holland and other equipment providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimbai. And lastly, Leslie, maybe if you can speak to maybe some of the inputs, the raw materials that you use, and maybe speak to the farmers here in terms of how you want to get your raw materials in terms of quality, price.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think as Lifetime Foods, we use a lot of pots because we are a healthy food manufacturing business. But currently, I think we only know just 2 or 3 farmers of oats of the grade that we can use. Most farmers are farming oats for cattle feed. So we are heavily relying on the importation of oats. And probably just to speak to the issue of capital that people are also alluding to, I've seen we normally have a problem where we are robbed in by non-governmental organization. They start a project, and then when they are now moving away from the project, they then want somebody who then takes over the project. And normally they call us, the manufacturer. But probably you see there's a lot of money that is in those areas. Some NGOs spend around 60, 100 million in a year doing things that are not cannot directly benefit the value chain. So I think there's also need for a conversation between the bankers and the private sector-led engagement where there's communication. I can tell you, last year we took around 72 tons of honey around Zimbabwe, but most of it was, we were called to then say, we are handing over these farmers to you. And you ask yourself, guys, was it not better for us to engage earlier so that at least we tell you what exactly we need, rather than to then say, you give me all the burden of saying, I'll take care of these farmers, And this is something that is recurring with most institutions. They start a project when they are moving, and it's after 4 years, when they are moving, they look for the private sector now to say, take care of this project, and then in a way, it doesn't give sustainability to the entire value chain. We're just pumping money, which is, I think we're losing money in that way. So I think there's that need for that dialogue to really concentrate our resources, because we've got few resources. Concentrate on our resources, really identify where we need to extract value, and then possibly consolidate our